We do have to coordinate this.
And hello, I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here with,
Tank.
and we're here on the front lines of the battle against the deep state cabal, the Illuminonkeys, and all the other ones out there that are deciding that they're elite over us, when we know that they're not.
The elite mediocrity of the world.
Yeah, so, well, I want to take a moment just to let you know that we have uploaded the show that was missing from 2 days ago when I had no internet and Tank carried the show. So it has been uploaded about a couple hours ago. So just you could check that out later. But here is a brand new show. And what's going on, Tank? You got anything cool to talk about here? Oh wow! Share the screen.
Well, yeah. Sorry, I was gonna share this. I made this for a new piece. See that?
I see it. Yeah.
And sometimes Lisa. I thought that made you laugh. No, actually, I have nothing. I know that Kim was waiting for a response from the G7 and from the the Federal Reserve Symposium, and so I asked her if she got what she needed, and all she told me was not entirely. So, and then I went back and
Hello.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry. So basically, I waited for Kim, and she said she didn't get what she needed entirely. But then she didn't tell me anything else. So, which means she's working on something, which could mean that they didn't have a part of what she needed, and then she had to build the rest, or could mean that, that she can't give away anymore right now. I know today, like you said, was a banking holiday. Well, in my day over here. So, I'm just waiting to, at this point, I hate to use this term, wait, because I hate the word wait. I also hate the word patience, in any context, actually. But, but I don't know. So
just hold on a second here, Tank. Just hold on.
Okay. Oh, that was a mean trick. I was looking at you going, is he frozen? Is he frozen?
They're just testing your patience.
Yeah, good job on that one.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I look at it this way. I've been incredibly patient, as has everyone else.
Yeah.
We've waited an entire lifetime to do this. So it's about time. It's about time. As for me, I'm like, my freedom is here and calling me, and I'm ready to step into it and rise to the occasion for whatever that means.
Yeah.
But the this process is infuriating. Infuriating.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Trump has come back from the G7, and so the symposium is over. So where are we? What is going to happen next? You know,
would you like to speculate? What do you think?
well, there is the end of this week. There's a lot of stuff that ends in the banking world. The end of contracts and things of that nature.
Like what? That's interesting.
It's kind of like a settling out of things. So they do it in sections. So it's just times of the year that happens every August, mid-August. This last yesterday was actually a banking holiday in England. So they have then contracts come to fruition at this point. That they have. So trade contracts, things like that. So if things are going to move at this time, it's going to be a very this would be the time where they start again with some things new. So, but this to me, when I start thinking about this, then it reminds me of GCR talk. Right? It's like
Yeah, well, that's what it reminds me of too. Like, well, everything's going to come together. They're going to do it overnight. They only work between Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the only real banking days. And all of this types of, one thing I learned from Kim that I remember is one of the reasons why I appreciate her so much when she told me this is the bank runs 24/7, 365. It never stops. The transfer department is always working on weekends, at night, in the morning, all times a day. There's always someone transferring something somewhere from someplace.
right.
And on the institutional level, on the highest levels of banking, that is also when they, do a lot of these alternative trades, or they used to. But now, with that being shut down, I literally live in a perpetual state of readiness, expectation, and allowance. I allow it to be. I expect it to happen, and I am ready for it at all times. So.
Well, I'm definitely ready. So many things to do. It's almost like I feel like just putting everything in a hat, and so what am I going to do? This was because I don't know which one to do first. Pull out.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I'm so clear on what to do first. I'm so clear on these next steps as far as at least the part that we get to play. I'm so crystal clear on what to do next, and and I appreciate it, and I can't wait to expand that creative energy to really, just kind of inspire other people to do the same.
Yeah.
And especially those who just have been so steadfast, and I always think about this: those who have toed the line to kind of expose the the evil shadow of evilness that has been out there, right? And for all these years before us, and and just kind of maintain the course. It's always amazing to me. Because I know that the level of intensity that we're doing it right now. I know today we did 3 broadcasts today, right? We were doing things nonstop, and YouTube's basically shut us down on that level. With they won't let us go live anymore. Because I'm sure it's the same problem they had, Jared Rand had with me, because I'm a loose cannon. No telling what I'll say, right? If you have me live. Guess what, YouTube? I'm live right now. You can't stop me. Anyway, sorry. Anyways, but
Let me check.
yes. But I mean, some of the things that happened. Today we were talking to. I look at anything, as far as I'm concerned. Every single thing I do is with the intent does it get us closer to freedom, and it's what I care about. I want to be free. I want my family to be free. I want my greater family expanding into, humanity to be free. And I want people to be informed as well, right? I want them to be intelligent and understand what has really happened, because something dangerous is someone who is free to make their own decisions that they have no idea, right? Like, you don't just let your toddler run around free at on a construction site,
Right.
And this world we're in is a construction site. So we want to make sure that people are informed and they understand, like, that if you touch that is going to electrocute you. If you go over to that edge, you're going to drop 30 stories. We want to make sure people understand what's here. So I'm always looking at, freedom and education at the same time, right? Because once people go free, I think everybody should have a sense of responsibility for one another, right? We're all responsible to raise each other up, whether we like someone or not. We are responsible for each other's lives. That's just the way it is. I mean, that's the reality of who we are. That's the price of being free, and especially if you know what it means to be free, right? And you know that people around you don't. It's just hard to be a human, So, thinking about that a lot today.
Yeah.
I was just talking a lot about President Trump, kind of what he's doing. So I thought you nailed it. I was excited to hear what you had to say yesterday about it. So
I think it's the most monumentous thing. This is another giant boom. This, and it's very quiet. This is really major. He just ordered all of these companies to come back. Now, he hasn't done it in the official capacity of under the emergency, right? So he has to enact, basically, sign something, say, okay, we're now in this emergency. But he's prepping everybody, by saying this. Now these businesses are now on alert, and they say, you know what, maybe we better just leave now, right? So he already has a flow out of China. Does this not turn up the pressure on China itself? So in the trade negotiations, I personally don't believe that the end goal here is to get into a 50-50 relationship with China at all. I think that Trump is looking to basically take back the money that was put out there into China, right? Because of this trade imbalance, and also they'll reverse that and they make it an 80-20. 80% for the U.S., 20% for China, moving forward, and that he wants to derail what the Communist Party, the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, has been doing. Now, I was listening to Steve Bannon. He's had a couple of interviews the last couple of days, and he's really laying this out and say it's the CCP is the problem, right? It's a dictatorial regime on top of the wonderful Chinese people, right? And it's up for China, the Chinese people there, to decide, that they're done with this totalitarian regime. And
okay, so wait, if it's a totalitarian regime, right? Who's the dictator?
That would be President Xi.
No, see, now this is where I think the story. Everyone has to really pay attention to what Trump says. But go ahead and finish your thought. Sorry.
Well, okay. Well, there's other. There's the vice chairman also, who has a lot of power, but Xi holds a different offices. Now they're talking about the government, right, of China, and then there is the Chinese Communist Party. There actually are different, though the people that are in the seats of the government are people who are in the Chinese Communist Party.
So I believe, if I understand this correctly, just looking at the tea leaves, right, you'll notice that President Trump will come out and make a deal that really slams China, and then turn right around the same day, within minutes sometimes, and say something very complimentary and encouraging about President Xi, right? And he does this all the time. You also notice when he was at the United Nations, he really went after China, right? But he does have a very positive relationship with President Xi. So why would that happen? It doesn't make sense, right? Well, because the reality is, what you're talking about, the Chinese Communist Party could just as easily be, you could just as easily say that's the group that is controlled by the Chinese elders. So I think what President Trump is doing is actually supporting the liberation of China. And what nobody really seems to talk about is it's because of who's really in control of the financial system in China. Right now, I spoke directly to the representative from the Central Bank of China 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and also one of the other, and that was one of the people who's actually Chinese, and also a group there who is part of the what is it called, 5-Star Trust or something like that.
Oh,
like
really?
Another, like one of those who think like they have, they're a signatory on the 5-Star Trust, but where they think there's still money, right? And they all still basically bow down to people who were not part of their government, not part of, they weren't even Chinese, but the Rothschilds, and specifically citing the IMF and other Rothschild bankers who were really in control of them. Right? They acknowledge that. The only people they let know they were speaking to us was the IMF and obviously the central bank. Now, they weren't able to help us because they didn't have the authority to sign off and write a letter of acceptance because they didn't have control of their own central bank, right? So now think about it. So if that's true, that means that you have the Chinese elders, quote unquote Chinese elders, which aren't even Chinese and not even real, in the sense of the way that we worship them in the RV. It's really the IMF, the Rothschilds, the remnants of this clandestine secret society of mediocrity, right? So you have this group left over. So I think what President Trump did, because they didn't yield, and they have no options, right? They have no options and no money to bring in. So what do? All they have is their money laundering locations, where they're basically laundering money back and forth locally in these smaller banks, like in Haiti, right? So we had people down in Haiti who told me this 2 days ago, that were sneaking straight cash from one bank to another bank to pay off and buy Parliament, right? So this is taking place, and now if it's happening in Haiti, I would imagine it's happening in other places that are also hotspots for money laundering, right? And they're trying to get this money out so they can continue to resist and fight. Now, if I can find that out, granted I have some pretty solid connections who are constantly giving me information, but I'm sure other people can too. I'm sure people in our Pentagon can find that out as well, cut that down, and maybe their cash flow, like literal, their fake cash that they have, these super notes, is all they have left to launder, and they can't move anyplace else, and they're still trying to find ways to start a war. And they think if they get a war going, that they can take control by introducing cryptocurrencies into the central banks. But I think President Trump is supporting the liberation of China, and I think he is working closely with President Xi. Yeah. That's my theory, Dan.
Yeah. Well, I figured out a while back that there are two main royal families that are in power in China. And every 5 years or so, they kind of flip, as to who's in control of the government. Now, it's very hard to find the evidence of this because it's very secret. But it's just some things that I've picked up along the way, and it seems like I was actually got caught in the crosshairs of a power transfer between Xi and the previous president. So I because I had a deal going on in Mozambique, and Chinese money was coming into play, and then the money didn't show up. Right, it's also a time of BRICS and everything else coming into play. So anyway, at that time, I got to see who was in power, who lost power. I was on the wrong side of that equation. But the impression that I get in dealing with these royal families that were, the Chinese elders or so on, that are basically it wasn't really about as much say the Rothschilds, where there are literally royal lineages there, and now the Rothschilds just add an element to that, right? On what faction they belong to. They belong to the Rothschild faction. So yeah, it's a bit complicated, but again, this infection that has been placed in the world of communism, has been being stomped out. It was stomped out in Russia. It's dying, everywhere. It actually died in Mozambique. After it was put into place in the mid '70s by General Chapundak, and I met with him. He's really the power behind things there, but there's still a governing system there. But after 20 years of literally no progress, nothing happening, he flipped to capitalism. He said, "Okay, this doesn't work." And he said, "Okay, let's get rolling here and change things around," right? And started to do it, but took again another 10 years before things started to really chug around there, and that's why the development of the natural resources was there, and that's what we were looking to help them do. And I was brought in because they were looking for a team of trustworthy people, right? That wasn't going to screw over the country, right? Or the people, right? It was really about how to make it actually work without corruption. And so I wish that this would have moved forward. I think if we were just even 3 months earlier there, we would have actually have caused everything to happen. Right.
Timing is everything, right?
Yeah.
So everything's led up to this moment. I mean, you can look at a million different ways where they've hung on by the skin of their teeth to maintain, absolute mediocre control, right? Like
right.
there is a ceiling, an absolute ceiling, and they exist right there at that ceiling. They're not above it.
Yeah.
They're right at it, and that's, they don't want anybody to go above that. And the one thing that they have done is, they've been privy. It's kind of like if you take, a bunch of people and they, one group has absolutely nothing and they're scraping to feed themselves, and then you take another group with equal abilities, and they're set up to be filthy rich and they have everything. Even if their abilities are equal, the group on the bottom will never be able to reach the mediocre level because they're always scraping to get by. And the mediocre level will never strive to be any more because they already have everything they need. So, and all they care about is suppressing everybody else. So, especially when there's just a very few of them,
Right.
Wow, I just saw a shooting star. That's pretty amazing.
Well, make a wish.
Yeah, it was really amazing. So, so that's kind of the, my wish is always the same. So, but
I guess you can't tell anyone.
I tell everyone every single time I speak. So it's fine. But yeah. So I mean, I look at that. What's happening in that piece? I think Trump is really working to help liberate China. All this stuff with the clandestine secret societies is the thing that just mind boggles me. To be honest, is that so few of us, such a small portion of the world realize that is not a conspiracy theory. That is a functioning part of our world order, right? And they have to be removed, And Trump did say, like, he was talking about the Federal Reserve the other day when he attacked, the Fed, and he said we did nothing again, right? Now I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, President Trump, they can't do anything. They don't have a license or anything, right? So why are you saying that, right?
It's the optics.
And yeah, it's an optic, right? But so he's saying, like, they don't know what I'm working on. They don't even call to find out. Well, obviously, you put this emergency order into place, and immediately you bring back the gold standard, and now you have an asset-backed currency instantaneously. Completely disrupts the entire world's market.
Right.
Everything changes because 146 countries are pegged to the U.S. dollar, and when they all realize, guess what? The U.S. dollar was always asset-backed, and then you just reintroduce the asset properly, and you get rid of all of the counterfeit currency that's out there, which would be probably the remainder of what's out there. Immediately, you have things shift. Everything shifts. Well, I say that, but I mean, obviously, even though it's you would think the universe rewards the actions of the bold. It seems like they more of a turtle at times than bold. So,
yeah,
I guess we'll see. But I do think we're at a pinnacle. I think everything's built up to this moment.
Yeah, I think you're correct. We're right there.
Yeah, and I was looking at the psyops. What they've done to us perpetually, right? They keep everyone in a perpetual state of looking for something in the future, or looking backwards to the way things used to be in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, with this, it makes me really consider that the most important thing for us to be in all this is to be present, right? To be in this moment and recognize what's happening right now. Not what's going to, but what is happening right now. And in this, the collective consciousness still has the power to shift everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our collective energy has the ability to change the world. Now, if we are, committed to being free, I don't know how many it takes, but I just can't imagine just knowing the power of the human spirit, knowing what is available to us, inside, right? That, if the entire universe exists within us and we exist within it at the same time, then a quantum shift can take place just by changing one, right? And as we change one mind, one heart, right, that is a state that perpetuates over and over again, and this is the act of, cellular division or reproduction. Sherry Edwards was talking about this today. She was saying how this frequency, that's, she said, people will say it's 528. She said that's not exactly right, but it's in that world, right? She said this is the frequency where, when you're falling in love, it's the frequency you feel that when you feel that way. And how that is the very act of creation. She said actually when the cells come together from a man and a woman to create offspring, where they merge together and they begin to divide, the exact same frequency is emitted from that cellular division. Which is really not, it's dividing, but it's really just increasing, taking two separate cells and making one.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual vibration and the frequency emitted from that is that same frequency of that world of 528. And that's an amazing thing when you think about it, that all creation really has to come from a place of love. It gives more scientific validity to something we talk about all the time.
I'll be right back.
Okay, I will continue to talk about love. So in thinking about that, right? So if the cellular division of reproduction actually takes place, because it's actually, this frequency is created by it, or the frequency itself is causing it, then it makes me really consider every word I say and everything I do and every aspect of my life should be from a place of love, right? And we actually had a doctor recently on who he has this book coming out, or is out, or a new training course. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's basically he's talking about that very thing. And this is true because anything you do from a place of love will always, even if it's hard, will always generate a better experience in every way, because you are doing it because you love someone or love something, or just because that's who you are, right? That you are just an embodiment of love. So that's not just nonsensical talk. That is the actual frequency of creation, right? So we're just putting terms on it, but that's where everything emanates. And you actually have this exact same occurrence in your body. A lot of people will talk about the pineal gland. Well, as light stimulates the pineal gland, it sends a frequency or an electric charge all the way down to your reproductive organs. And there is a direct connection between them. So the very act of creation and the light that is comprehended or created by your pineal gland are directly connected. So that means physically in your body, the pineal gland, one of the many things that are fascinating about it, right, is that it actually creates its own color, its own light, right? So when they try to suppress that, they're trying to suppress the very nature of the sovereign human imagination, right? And that is the key to all creation, is for us to create something new, not something that has been repeated over and over and over again. If we only create that we know exists or that which we've experienced, we never really create anything new. But that's the incredible reality behind the human imagination, that the world is whatever you imagine it to be. So I feel like I spend a lot of my time imagining the world to be amazing. And I'm always trying to expand that, and I recommend anybody out there listening do the same. Because these are not just far out abstract ideas. They're practical. They're very practical. So right now we're up against the wall, and I can imagine President Trump right now is, obviously wheeling and dealing and doing things very seemingly public, right? But he's obviously not telling us the whole story. We're just imagining what each one of these things actually means. Now, a lot of times we'll find ourselves in a state of disappointment, because it doesn't happen the way we think, right? So I think the most powerful thing that can happen is when we collectively agree that the time is now. I think just that all by itself. And then it doesn't matter if everyone imagines something different, because in this moment of now, there is space in our collective imagination to create anything and everything simultaneously. That if now means that we are finally free. And what that means to you. Now, what does that mean to me, what I think about all the time, is that if I am free to access the source, substance, limits, bounds, essence, and origin of all life, the very nature and description of the omnipotent, omnipresent, and omnifarious, meaning of all types, the inexhaustible and inscrutable substance of God or source or the universe. And we can draw all of that into a shape and form of our own choosing. And that ends up being our life. And that is where babies come from. Dan, go ahead.
Oh, that's a good place to come into. So I heard most of what you were saying, and I used to do kind of visualization exercises when I was young. I was fascinated that when they would say, when you dream in black and white. And I was saying, I never dream in black and white. I always dream in color. So
yeah.
I didn't know. I really. I mean, it's like being colorblind in your dreams. Yeah. So
right.
I just wondered why would that be? And I actually started doing very young age. I don't know how old, 10, 12, somewhere in there. Do visualizations of colors, colored spheres, and I always close my eyes and envision them, and then have them travel, right, and go in paths, corkscrew paths, and things of that nature, and just change colors.
Yeah, sure.
So just I think this is. This is something that I know now. I now know it happens within the pineal gland, within the pineal eye. Right? It's actually has the same color receptors that we have in our eyeballs, our front eyeballs. Well,
Sure.
well, same maybe. Maybe they're colorblind ones in the inside.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't think about that until now, but could be that they can only receive like almost like binary, on and off, black and white, and they're able to see that. But being able to see in dreams in color or visualize things in color, I think it's just a matter of this pineal gland. So we're visualizing things and we're constructing them from light. But where does the light come from? Right?
Within.
Yes, from within. So, our whole body is made of electrical charges, right? Bouncing around place to place, making things happen. Well, electricity gives off light. Then we have chemical processes that are going on, right? Chemical processes can give off light. So it's not hard to really think that we actually have light being emitted from inside our heads. And if we have so much, light, it leaks out and becomes a halo.
Yes.
Right. So
that's what happened to Moses when he saw God in shape and form. He came down and had to cover his face because he shone so bright.
Yeah, because it's just like, yeah, let me put on some shades to talk to you, man. And sometimes Lisa.
And sometimes Lisa.
Well, because Lisa came on for a moment, then she disappeared. So.
Oh, Lisa, come back.
That kind of fits properly, and sometimes Lisa. She's gone and she's here and back. I guess she just came to see if we're in the room.
Right. Yeah. They're probably gonna have a meeting. Things breaking all day, so it's hard to, it's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by this concept, and that everything exists within us, right? And we exist within it, right? And so to your point, right? It's like, we did this healing on a Saturday night, right? And we actually posted on YouTube if anyone wants to meditate. It's very powerful, and I thought, and everyone who was on it certainly did. And it was really fascinating the way Faye Ferris she led into the meditation. She was talking about drawing a line, so to speak, from your connection to source above, and then to source within you, and then connecting that to your heart, and then down into the earth, right? And then you can really see how, if you look at the earth, right, it's symbolic of the heart, right? Because the heart is really, what causes anybody to create anything, right? Like there's a old saying about, if it wasn't for women, then men would only make cabinets. But because of women, we make masterpieces, right? They inspire us to create beautiful shapes and designs and make the world a beautiful place, so to speak. And so there's something about that combination. If you look at Earth, all the, when we think about the sun, usually we think of a big fiery ball, right? But the Earth, by comparison, is much more complex, intricate, and beautiful. So they were kind of describing that, and I think those principles are just so powerful because, you have a direct connection between your heart and your brain, right?
Right.
And your heart has this amazing quality about it. It's this symbol for love, and your heart, no matter what abuses we put on our heart is so resourceful it will continue to beat, even when the pathways are blocked. The arteries, right? You get clogged arteries. The heart will literally create new pathways, creating arteries to get around the blockage and find a way. And the first thing the heart always does when it pumps blood and receives oxygen is it takes care of itself, so make sure it has oxygen to survive, and then it returns that oxygen immediately to the brain. Always demonstrating that with love comes appreciation, that your heart appreciates the brain telling it to beat, and their relationship is symbiotic.
Yeah, we have a current that has to have a return path. Right. So when we are, let's say everything's in alignment, say all the chakras, all the alignments of energies going from top to bottom, connection then to the ground, connection up to, to the sky, that's another circuit. And when we're in connection, we actually then are able to, let's say, affect the world and create a reality that is more with everyone else, as opposed to then your own space. So you could be imprisoned into your own self and not creating in unison with everything else around, and then you're always fighting the box that you're in. And then you want to blame everyone around you and the circumstances when you're the one that's responsible. So when we getting back to this idea of the color or the imagining light that comes into your pineal gland, this light emanates, and everything is made of light. All matter is created by light. Light and magnetism and consciousness, right? So when we're able to then channel this, by creating that circuit. You remember, I'm an electrical engineer, so I tend to want to make sense of this in regards to the how say physics and math, and so I always have this in the background. Wanting to try and paint this picture this way is that when we're in alignment and this flow of energy is dynamic, we are in sync. We have the synchronicities that happen. The things that are needed just at that moment. I'd be remarkable. Like I remember some business things, and there was short. They needed money to pay bills or something like that, and it would be, to the dollar, the amount would come in, right?
Right.
I mean, literally, a check made out, it's like to the dollar amount. It was like, one of them was like $13,738, and it needed $13,738, and it's like, well, how does that happen? To move, step by step, obviously someone had to have created that check before you needed it. Right?
Yeah. So the universe is already conspiring for you, right?
Yeah.
So, the idea, and I think about this, that's why, one of the reasons why, I love that we have really maintained, even with, various, like a heartbeat going up and down along the way, but we've kept the heart beating to be consistent with our broadcast every day, and I appreciate, obviously, that's, to me, is very important that we have a consistent presence, and we're giving all that we have, right? Because to me, it sends a very loud message to the universe that we will not be silenced about this. We are declaring our freedom every time we have a call. We are, saying that we have a voice, that we have unique, well, I don't say unique, but we have original ideas, and we want to express ourselves fully as who we are as humanity. That we have the rights and we claim the substance that is ours. That we know what they're doing, and we are no longer consenting to their corrupt agenda. That their anti-humanist agenda, being, they're this whole corrupt conspiracy theory they've created. A conspiracy theory, ultimately is a lie, right? And fear is a liar. That's what Michelle Walker said the other day. I thought it was a powerful statement. Fear is a liar, right? It's just a shadow of something. And shadows always appear to be so much bigger than the actual person, depending on the light.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just, You realize the light source is you. You know, the more powerful you are, the more powerful the shadow looks.
Well, I've always, thought of like, love is how everything is created. But I never, hate never made any sense to be the opposite of love. What always made sense to me is that fear is the opposite of love.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's good. I think there's legs to that. I mean, I think hate and fear, they're best friends. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I think it's because of fear you have hate. I think it's the core corporate. It's not because you hate, you end up with fear. I think you start with fear.
It's
and you
funny.
end up
That's a good point. Because I learned at a very young age that I hated to be afraid. So I just stopped being afraid of things, right? And anything that scared me, I would literally jump in with 2 feet. I remember my friends and I we would go up to this cliff called Rock Stream in my hometown up on Seneca Lake in upstate New York. And we would camp out at the top of this cliff. It was like a 50-foot cliff that we would jump off during the daytime. And so we were up drinking one night, and we thought, hey, let's go down to the rock stream. Let's go down and jump in, right? And so we went up from the top, and we got there, and it was terrifying, right? Because you had to jump out like 8 feet just to clear the rocks so you didn't get killed. And so we were all terrified at the idea of like just jumping out at night when you can't see where you're jumping. And because I was so scared in that moment, I said, I'm going. And I just jumped. And I remember jumping off this cliff, and I'm flying through the air, right? And I just jump, and it's like, big deep breath, and I'm just waiting, like, shh. And then I just, I hit the water. And then I came back up, and, like, yeah! My friends, And that was, I just kind of feel like that's kind of my allegory for everything, right? It's like, well, I've seen it work before in the daytime. There's nothing here that's not there.
Well,
the only thing right now is fear.
I think that our main way of moving forward in this world is to be fearless. Fear is a natural response, and it's okay for fear to happen, but it doesn't have to rule how you act. Right? You need to recognize it when it happens, and then make a decision on how to decide how to deal with it without remaining in fear. Whatever decision you make, be fearless and move forward.
Fearless and incorruptible. Those are the qualities, right? Fearless and incorruptible. Now, if you can be fearless and incorruptible, and you will not compromise, then there's nothing you can't accomplish, right?
Right.
Because you can have everything and still operate fearlessly and lose it all. But because you're fearless and incorruptible, you can build it right back up and even better, and not be afraid to lose it all. Because, a lot of times what we think is so important, we lose it all, and then we realize it really is important.
It's not all. That's the delusion. It's not all. What all is you.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't lose you. You might lose things. You might lose attachments to things. There might be change involved, but it's not that you're losing it all. You're on a different path at that point. That reality is gone. So you have to move past it. So going forward fearlessly. And on the direction that makes, so like the GCR, the big lie, right? No fear about, okay, wow, I've lost like, 10 mountain warehouses filled with like treasure. No.
Right.
It's just,
I remember, like jumping ship from the GCR, right? And, Kimmy called and broke my heart, right? Basically told me the GCR wasn't real. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, right? And I remember that of when I really started to endorse Kim, and I had we do a conference call on a regular basis, and I would just show up on the Real Truth Call, and we would regularly have, a couple thousand people, just because we got a call, and it's funny now. It's like now I've never put out a message that has a higher level of quality. I've never put out a message that is more true, that is backed by more evidence. And now, I mean, I can't even, if we had 1,000 people paying attention tonight, I'd be totally blown away, right? Because, but the reality is that if I got caught up in the image of that and, thought that was something that defined me, right? And that's it. Because people, I thought it was so funny. People tried to say it was my ego. I'm like, if it was my ego, wouldn't I have stayed, pandered to people,
right?
Continued on that path? But really what it was is letting my ego go and just saying, no, look, I don't. It doesn't matter if everybody else thinks this is wrong. This woman has proven to me that it's right? And since then, which is like a year, 9 months ago or so. I mean, she's done nothing but prove it over and over and over again. And we were talking about this the other day, how there's a whole crowd of, in the currency holding community, and one of our teams said, we should. The people are still thinking this way. We should do this for them. And I basically, the way I feel is that I've paid my debt to the currency community personally. I've given everything I have, everything I feel I can.
There's a weird noise coming from your end.
Yeah, sorry, 1 second.
Is that like an airplane?
Yeah, jet passing over, sorry.
Oh, okay.
So I've given everything I can to try to educate and to correct the harm I did, when I was speaking for the global currency reset. And, because I really believed the things I was saying then. And to be honest, when I look back, I had a lot of sources, right, who would tell me stuff. But I didn't have a lot of solid evidence, And now, that's one thing, we put out this thing the other day where Kim doxed all the, the accounts and all the codes and all the things that everybody would kill to have. She just gave them to me. And she said, here, I'll give you all of it. What do you want? Show me all the books, show me codes, account numbers, anything I wanted. It was all useless, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about the account number or the code, right? It's about the person, making the request. It's about the individual. Because the individual at the top, Kim makes the codes, she can make the code anything she wants, right? She can make the code, Rothschild suck it, and that would be the code, which I've asked her to do actually. But so it doesn't really matter about those things that were given such importance. They never had superiority over the people, and to this day, I think that is something that we live with. I think people in general live with, that we don't appreciate the power that each of us has individually and personally, right? The power of our innate belief, the still small voice within us lets us know you can do anything, but you have to want to do it, right? And the universe is not going to kind of spiritually rape you, right? But the universe is there to, is coursing within you or intercoursing with you at all times. And if you just recognize it and you want to put that energy to use, that life force to use, you can.
Did you say intercourse?
Intercourse, yeah. Yeah, I did. I was making a point, but yeah.
Just checking.
The universe. You are intercoursing with the universe.
Yeah, you're creating reality.
Yeah, there's, we're made up, like you said, exactly to your point of electrical currents, right?
Right. Yeah, your
alternating current is receiving energy and creating energy, putting it back out, at an equal rate, which essentially creates an unlimited power source. Well, that is just the universe in action.
But what you want to do is go to direct current.
Why would we want to go direct?
Yeah, don't be direct to source. I don't want to go back and
direct.
forth.
Well, no, actually, here's what's funny. This gentleman in one of my groups, I won't say his name, but he has a patent for a free energy device which surpasses Tesla's device, in that it uses alternating current and it uses direct current. So you have a direct receiving current, right, to stimulate everything from source, and then generates an unlimited stream of alternating current.
Yeah. Well, like for example, if you have a direct current light, right, such as a LED, right, you know, from a battery, you know, for example, that's direct. You know, it's solid, right? When you have alternating, it's basically, you know, full power to no power to negative power and back. So when you're powering things, you want actually direct current. All the computers are all direct current, but they take a power supply that is from the AC and they convert it into direct current. So that it can be powered and be maintained in a stable way. The AC is really for, you know, long transmissions of power, so it can go further, you know,
Sure.
on a wave. So it's kind of like you know, the ripples on the surface. You know, it goes further and further and further, you know, and then dissipates over time. If you had it direct, it would actually dissipate directly. So, but unless you're just tapped into source, right, then you don't need it. There's another energy system. I was just looking into it. It was all the rage back in the 70s and 80s, right? Everyone was talking about it. And it literally, once you got it up and rolling, you could basically power things from the mass of the engine generated the energy. So the bigger the actual engine was, the weight of it actually was where the energy came from. It was
Like
part
perpetual force?
Yeah, it's, in essence, you know, the what holds many things matter together, right? There's energy there. Once there was a flow created, so that he'd use like a AA battery to start this massive motor, right? And it might,
Wow.
right? And so once that massive motor was running, it actually pulled the rest of its energy from itself, which was perpetual because it was being that matter was held into place, right, by source. It exists, right? The things that kept all the atoms and and electrons in place that are in motion or tied together, that energy was tapped. So the motor would just exist and just power itself, which is more the most stable form of energy at that point, right? Because once it's on its mission, right, its path to generate electricity, to move, to turn, it can continue. So it was very fascinating, right? And so now the guy that is like in his 80s, right, and he has like the machine in a you know, these storage bins, right, you know, monthly storage, and he goes there and he turns it on. He puts in a couple of AA batteries and, you know, turns it on. This big, huge machine starts rolling, right, and pumping water in and out of one thing so he can show, hey, it's about the mass. The bigger the motor, the more energy can be created. So
that's the kind of thing that just seems insane, doesn't it? That you have this working technology.
Yeah.
And we're using this source that is, you know, dangerous and damning. You know, up here in I think it's in Mohawk, they have a, you know, nuclear power plant. You know, it's like, why are we using? Why would we possibly be using these things? You know,
right.
It's like they take everything that is simple and beautiful, and they make it perverted and deadly. And they weaponize it.
Well, one way the nuclear systems we have in place, in the road and the path that they went down to create these nuclear systems, didn't have to be that most dangerous path. There's a much better way to produce nuclear energy that doesn't produce the nuclear waste. and doesn't actually produce, and also is not under high pressure, right? It's a molten salt reactor, and that type of reaction was at the very same time that they built the other ones made, and it was functioning. You know who's like capitalizing on this technology? China. They're the ones that have went and they said, okay, well, thanks for the info. Now they have full programs in developing this nuclear technology, all right, molten salt reactors. So and it doesn't use the uranium, to create it. It's another higher element on the periodic table that then. So you don't have this unstable. But they wanted to use the uranium so that they could actually get the resulting conversion into nuclear material for weaponry. So that's the real reason they went that path. But it doesn't have to be that way. So we could have nuclear energy right now, right, and it would work. And they already had it working, and it doesn't, and it would be safe. So why are we not doing it? And then, but when the Nuclear Regulatory Commission appears in Congress, and the congressman asks, "What about the molten salt reactor?" And they'll say stuff like, "Well, it shows no promise." Right? But here's all the data that actually was functioning, right, and working, but it didn't produce the nuclear material that they wanted for weaponry. So the congressman. What are the congressmen going to do? It's the deep state. It's the people in place that are meant to stop certain technologies from moving forward. They have to be removed. These people either they don't know, they're being stupid because they're just buying into what they're fed, right? Or they know and they're just gatekeepers.
Well, that is a good question. Is it ignorance, or it's just pattern and repetition, right? When you do something over and over and over again, you're used to thinking this is the right thing to do because this is what I do really well. So in the, perpetual energy created by useless, government meetings, they're used to doing, not actually making progress, right? Not actually building anything, not actually creating anything, but creating the appearance that they're doing something, right? And that's what they create over and over and over again, is the appearance of doing something versus the actual creative process. And that's why they hate President Trump so much, because he's exposing how inept they have all been, because he keeps doing stuff, right? Like every time you turn around, President Trump is taking action, right?
Right.
Yeah. We just did this. We built the wall. We're already building the wall. I just saw them putting up the wall in San Diego. It's like he just keeps showing how simple it is. Because at the end of the day, all these problems that are plaguing humanity are so simple to fix if we would just get our ass moving. And it's the one thing I don't fully I don't know how to do without the collective, right? Like you need the collective buy-in, and the collective buy-in is suppressed, right? The message from creating that collective is suppressed, right? And it's not allowed to grow because the overwhelming, blaring idiocracy of the mainstream media is perpetually drowning people. So they don't even realize how close they are to the surface to take a breath of fresh air and be free. I talked to someone about this the other day, and I was like, look, and they wanted me to be somewhere and I couldn't because I couldn't, because of the work that we're doing, and they were like kind of complaining to me about it. I said, listen, I'm sorry. I'm like, I know you don't understand now, but when I'm done, we'll be free, and our kids will be free. And they were like, free from what?
They don't even know, right?
And then I went into like full on, insane conspiracy mode. I was like, free from the aristocracy that's trying to suppress us, So
free from the man.
Like listen. Nah, but that is true. It is the man, right?
It is.
I mean, it's not men, by the way. It's not white men only, right? But there's lots of white
No,
guys
just
there.
it's the man. It's just one Marduk.
It's the symbol of the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, so I haven't quite mastered that, but I do feel that we're broadcasting internally, through the what Cheyenne calls a spacebook, right?
Spacebook.
The inner planes.
That's good. Spacebook.
Yeah. And she says on Facebook there is no interference in communication. So I do believe the universe communicates to every molecule, every cell, every atom, every photon of light goes out, and our intention to be free and to create freely, goes out. So I just think maintaining that energy on a constant and consistent basis is the most power. That is in and of itself is its own perpetual energy. It never ceases to stop. Anybody who has tapped into their own creative nature knows it's almost impossible to stop creating. You're always creating. You always have new ideas. You always have new
right. But a lot of people go into the habit of creating and then uncreating, creating and then uncreating. So they say what they want and they head in that direction, and then they talk themselves out of it. They deconstruct the reality that they were trying to create.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, because I think about this all the time. Like we see a pathway, and we start down the path, and we get too far from our comfort zone, so we get scared, we bail out.
Okay.
That becomes its own prison, right?
Right.
And that prison only exists within our own mind.
Yep.
So I love, it's funny. I was never really into like Abraham Hicks, but lately it's like I've found Abraham Hicks, to be like brand new, and I've really just been considering. He talks about this, the state of feeling and allowing yourself to feel that way, because what we'll do is we have decided or been trained or programmed to think that we should be worried, right? And worrying is responsible in our mind. So what will happen is we'll feel good about things, and then we'll start to think, don't get too comfortable, right? Because that's kind of things we've been told. Don't get too comfortable. Don't get cocky. Don't rest. You never know what's happening. Be on your guard. All these things. So we never can ever really relax, right? Because we're always afraid, like, an alligator come out of the ocean and devour us, right?
Right.
So it's like the things that are natural and beautiful and harmonious in our existence that we do have the right to, and the energy that we create, really enables us to do anything we want to do. We don't believe it. But if we could connect with our belief and our feeling, and believe what we're feeling is okay,
Right.
then we could literally bring anything into our field, or raise ourselves to connect with that frequency. I mean, this is what Einstein said. He said, look, this is just physics. Imagine anything that you want in the world, and then match the frequency of that, and it'll naturally be drawn to you. You'll naturally attract it. He said, that's just physics. It's just the way it works. It's science.
Yep, it is. So it is metaphysics and physics. It's one thing, but usually you're just looking at it from one angle. So, one of the things that I've mentioned this before, but there's the movie "What the Bleep Do We Know?" Right? It really talks about how you manifest. It kind of ties in, the chemicals in the body from the pituitary gland putting out these neuropeptides, and that causes your body to react in certain ways, and then that creates the physical path that you're following. But it comes from your thoughts, right? What you're creating. And so we had a kind of a symposium. It was on this technical architecture that we were discussing. So we literally had hundreds of people that came for a conference for this, and half of them were literally physicists, and the other half were engineers. And the funny thing is, so I took them all to see this movie in the movie theaters. What the bleep do we know? And it's funny is all the physicists basically, basically just rejected everything that was there out of hand. But all the engineers were open to basically seeing how does it work? How do we put it together? How do we make it happen? And we're open to the discussions. All right. So there's literally angles at which people are they situate themselves in their box, right? And they won't recognize that that there is a spiritual element, right? That they want to deny this piece, right? But if you ask them, do you love your children? And of course I do. Well, what is that? Prove it. Yeah, prove it. Right. That's the other part. You always say prove it. But what is that? Is that magic? Is that energy? What is it that you are experiencing that you say is love? Oh, it's just chemical responses. Just chemical responses. Just something out of nature. It's something that we evolved to do. Or is it actually an energy flow? A pattern of energy that is part of creation. Loving our children is part of creation. So so people. It's okay. Those people were wonderful people. Those physicists, right? They're not bad people because they couldn't, have a perspective at that time, right? But hopefully, seeing movies such as What the Bleep Would Know provide some, glimpse of maybe a crack in their walls of their box, right? And maybe they can someday walk through those cracks.
I think about that because with we talk about this like inside the order, right? So they clearly recognize it really is a witness, and they are a witness against themselves. They would just consider this, which, I'm not trying to convince the cabal of anything. I care less what they do. But if you think about it, right, they're a witness to the power of love, right? Because with absolute domination of control of the human psyche, of the narrative, right? And they have still not been able to ruin us, to beat us, right? They manipulated the water, the food, the air, our minds, the way we think, the frequencies of everything, the way everything vibrates on the planet, convinced us to die earlier, right? And in that, they still have not been able to destroy the human spirit. I was listening to Kim talk about this the other day with somebody. No matter what they do, they will never be able to beat us because an anti-human agenda is an anti-life agenda. You can't destroy life. Now, it's the reason why that is such a witness to the power of love is because we know we exist. We know we're real. We know that we are more than what we might appear to be on the surface, because even though they've erased every concept of any other life we've had or any other potential we've had or our true abilities, what they have never been able to destroy is the fact that we love, that we know what love is. We know it's intangible. It's the uniting energy behind everything. It's what breaks down the walls between every religion. Because at the end of the day, people create because of love, right? They don't create because of hate, even though it might seem that way. They might think, I hate these people, so I'm creating this. But that's not true. They're usually protecting something they love. And so that is such a strong emotion, it evokes hate against anything that threatens that, or that they perceive to be a threat of that. So then even within the ranks of the cabal, they knew, like, to control the slave masters, right? You had to take humans who were no different than us, no better, no worse, and you had to destroy them and fracture them from a very young age, right? So they take the babies and they give them away to another family. They all offer a sacrifice of their firstborn, or something like that. Then they rape them, molest them, abuse them, and treat them with no love whatsoever, right? Until the idea of love completely changes in that individual's mind, right? the idea of love, of caring and kindness and creation becomes pain, control, and suffering, right? So then they go on to express love the same way, but it's still them expressing love. And the fact that they knew they had to destroy what love really is, or to program it out of people to control the rest of us, is just a witness to the power and how much they fear it. So to overcome them is not to hate them, right? But to overcome them is to show love and to be love, right? To show love to each other, to be love within ourselves, to take actions and move and speak in a way that demonstrates how much we believe in the power of love. Put our money where our mouth is. Because if we can do that, then, we can realize, and obviously I'm someone who gets very frustrated with them, with the smallness of the way they think. But at the end of the day, we can change everything just by perpetually creating from a place of love. And it will reflect in our lives and others' lives, and we'll continue to build something great. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, we will continue.
Indeed.
Yeah. Indeed. So
in thought, word, and deed.
Yeah. Well, we have our thoughts. We keep moving forward, and then all of a sudden we're in that new reality. That's why on episode 177.
177. When Dan and Tank discovered love.
And sometimes Lisa.
In my former life, in my religion, we would always talk about the creation, that everything with the creation of man, so to speak, it's a love story, right? Showing what to give your very best to create something, that expresses and reflects exactly who you are. That's a love story. So our life should be just that, a love story. So that's all I got, man.
I'm sure there's much more there, but it's okay. We can end this one.
Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate you. You have a great night. Everybody else.
Yeah, back at you. And so we'll see you, everyone, tomorrow. And please subscribe. Please pass out this link, especially the one from yesterday. I think actually I want to start promoting that show from yesterday because it really was monumental what happened with Trump claiming, ordering companies back from China, this ratcheting up. It really is a big shift in the world, and it's virtually unnoticed.
I actually watched the whole show yesterday again. It was that good.
Yeah. So let's move this link out from yesterday. Yeah, today's is okay. Tell you what, yesterday I think is very important.
Definitely pretty good. Yeah.
All right, everybody.
All right. Everybody have a great night. Later.